Stop doing webinars, start running shows. Thank you very much for joining me on this sunny Friday afternoon. We're here in our studio in Stockholm, and I just need a few minutes. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, just to really talk to you about webinars, the old classic webinar that we often get invited to. And I'm going to make a case for how, if you do these, you should start thinking of them as shows rather than webinars. And I've got some examples to show you, which I think you'll enjoy. And let's get into it. My name's Daniel. As I said, we're based here in Stockholm. We run a studio here in the city, doing live stream productions for companies and also lots of video production with a sprinkle of AI here and there as well to wow you. So let's jump into it. So the problem I see we're faced with is still gated. In these live streams that we do, we try to make them into more dynamic experiences for the audience. And quite often we see the webinars, the companies are running webinars, they're very static and they're really from the pandemic era. They're very boring. There's no clear call to action. The format is very simple. Often it's a big slide fest. And there's no real excitement, and it's not really making the most of the live format that we now have on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and all the platforms now facilitate live. So we've produced over 250 live shows ranging from small 50, 400 euro projects to 50,000 euro projects. And here's what we've learned. So let's go to part one. You got webinar versus show. What am I really sort of talking about here? Well, the old webinar game is very much about static slides, a gated email sign up to a Teams call or event. It's a one-way broadcast quite often with no energy and no format, just running through slides. And it generally ends with nothing. Quite often it's just a brick wall. Thank you for joining this 45-minute webinar. Hope to see you again in the future. But what I'm talking about now is really a show. It's the thing we should be doing now to really separate ourselves from our competition and also to engage our audience who really are starved of time. So we need to respect their time more and more. So we really need to think of it as running a TV network rather than a webinar. And that's the frame of mind you should be in. So you should be really thinking sort of TV4, not PowerPoint. And the reason for this is that these shows have formats, and it's a recurring format that really helps you to imagine and be creative. So these should be more engaging, educational, entertaining if possible. But, everyone can do educational. If you know 10% more than your customers, then you're able to educate them in something. So for most people out there, if they've been in a career or a job for many years, they are by default and someone who can educate an audience. So try to think of the show at its foundation as an educational format in a B2B environment, that is especially. So you can have in a show, you would have segments, dynamic graphics, perhaps pre-recorded inserts, share screen demos, make a bit of an effort on the way it looks, much like you're looking at now, with the bar at the bottom, trying to give it a kind of live feel and format. It's also, good because our feeds are full of AI content these days. And I think an antidote to that is to actually go live. Your audience is being pummeled by all these different pieces of content that come up in their feed every day. And really everyone's fatigued by it. But I think a live stream is a good opportunity to actually build a connection, a rapport with your customers and audience. Also, a show format by definition implies a repeatable format. Quite often webinars are sort of like, we do a quarterly webinar and then you'll hear from us again in 3 months. We'll send you an email, you can sign up. Whereas a show has a much more kind of implied recurring element to it. So recommend that you really sort of think of creating shows rather than webinars. I'd actually like to show an example or a case study really from someone I admire online. His name's Neil Patel. He's a kind of a marketing guru. We have a clip here that I wanted to share with you just to sort of like reiterate really the points I've been making. So let's run that video of Neil right now.
The brands that are still winning organically have stopped thinking like social media managers. They started thinking like TV networks. You're not running a social media account. You're running a TV network. Here's what that means. In the old era, brands had one account. They posted everything on that one account: products, behind the scenes, cultures, memes, educational content, promotional stuff. And the problem with that approach is that it confuses the algorithm and it confuses the audience. The algorithm doesn't know what your account is about, so it doesn't know who to show your content to. And your audience doesn't know what to expect from you, so they don't build a habit of watching. The brands winning attention today treat social media like NBC or ABC treats TV programming. They don't put every type of content on one channel, they create shows. This could even mean each show gets its own channel instead of being published on the main brand account. Bill Rewards, a fintech loyalty platform for renters, launched Roomies, a mockumentary-style sitcom about a young woman navigating life with chaotic roommates in New York. One format, one cast, millions of views. Individual episodes hit 500,000 plus views, and the show built 150,000 organic followers across TikTok and Instagram. Here's the key. These aren't one-off viral stunts. They're renewable, repeatable formats designed to run like TV shows, week after week, episode after episode.
Thank you, Neil. That's really good. I recommend you follow Neil actually on YouTube. He's got a great account and is always ahead of the curve when it comes to marketing in the AI world we live in today. And this is just so good. You know, it is talking about this show element, which is what I've also been saying. It's something that really we need to think of as marketeers in whatever business you're in, is how do you entertain and educate at the same time in a show format that's repeatable. So let's go to part 2, why recurring format is everything. You know, people are creatures of habit, and, you know, we like content that comes back, you know, something we recognize. We all have our favorite shows and our series that we like to binge watch and get into. And dare I say it, we even look forward to, you know, the release date of it. Now, a lighter version of that in a B2B environment is basically, you know, repeating the same format so that your audience gets familiar with it and, you know, even expects it to come out. You know, it might be the last Friday of every month you do some kind of roundup video of what's happening in the industry, something that people can actually recognize and look forward to in their feeds. So it really makes up 4 parts, the recurring element. One is the format. So, you know, can you make a show that has the same kind of format? So it could be structured in a certain way. You may have an intro at the beginning. You may have market analysis in section 2, section 3. Might be things that have happened within the business that month. 4 might be a product release. But you keep it the same, the format the same, which also helps the audience to digest what you're talking to them about if you're doing it in parts. The second thing with regards to recurring format is the theme. You know, what is the central idea of the show, and connecting back to that in every episode. So what is the mission of the show? Really helps people's mind. Yes, I know the journey we're on together with this show. And they get used to that and they expect it. So, you know, that's really important to have a recurring theme. Thirdly, you know, hosts and characters, the same people in the show helps a lot, of course. You don't need to necessarily do that every time, but having the same host as the anchor point for the show, we like to see that in the content that we consume. We like to get familiar with people and, you know, you build a sort of like a relationship with them. So recurring element is characters and hosts, keeping those the same. And then lastly, fourth, the set. You know, trying to record in a location that is the same every time. You know, again, programming your audience's brains to familiarize themselves with it and have a kind of cozy feeling when they see it. Yes, I know that. And of course, you can go wild with the set. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a studio like this. Quite often, we film shows in the lobbies of companies, you know, where there's activity and stuff going on in the background, coffee's being made and meetings happening, is actually a very good backdrop for a show. Much like a newsroom, you know, when you see people in the background or the journalists behind the presenter telling the news, you know, that kind of vibe. So, you know, when they see these things pop up in their feed, it's about recognition. So, yeah, let's try to create repeatable format shows that people recognize in their feed and can come to expect over time. If you get good at it, then people will look forward to seeing it, and actually, you know, you'll have an audience that stays with you for a longer period of time. I got a video here. This is a good case study of such a show that really kind of still blows my mind. that we were part of creating this, but it's in a B2B environment. And if you're familiar with the brand Logitech, they make incredible computer accessories and products that they're fantastic. And, we 3 years ago, we worked with Logitech and again to set to figure out how could we make a show for them in their B2B environment with their customers, their resellers. And we had huge brainstorming meetings, and we came up with the idea that basically let's create a World Cup format where different installers compete to installing Logitech equipment to see the quickest time possible that could do it. So we created a game basically and turned it into a show. And this would have been compared to doing some kind of webinar you could do with those resellers, a more traditional approach. We really went all in, and with the team, Logitech created this incredible video installation World Cup. Let's just run the video of that so you can take in what I'm talking about here. Welcome to Barcelona. We are here at Logitech's Video Installation World Cup 2026 for the finals. We have European teams coming in today to compete in the Video Installation World Cup. Let me just give you a quick look behind the scenes. We're here, of course, on the video and live stream crew, and this is the live stream station that will basically be pumping the stream out to YouTube and to LinkedIn, to thousands of fans around the world. Watch your step, Tomio. Okay, so here is where the judges will be, and they'll be commentating from here as the teams compete. Now, the competition is to install all the Logitech equipment on this wall in the quickest time possible. So we have the rally bar, we have the tap scheduler, and of course a giant television here, a Samsung screen that's going to go on here. The teams have to compete. The world record for this installation is around 20 minutes.
We have a new world record, and the guy from Sweden has beaten it.
So they have all the tools and equipment they need. Every team has exactly the same things. So it's a fair fight, and they will install. And we are going to be live here in Barcelona later on this evening around 7 for the finals. Check out the link below if you want to join us on that. Other than that, let's get back to work. We've got a few more hours to prep before the teams arrive and before the show starts. So let's get back to it. So that's the Video Installation World Cup with Logitech, something we're very proud of, but it's a great example of how you can create a show in a B2B environment. And we're on, I think, the 6th or 7th version of that. We just did the recent one in Barcelona, and it's actually going on a world tour now. So yeah, it scales up, it's repeatable, and it's a great way to engage your audience. Let's just jump into part 3, and then I'll let you get on with the rest of your Friday afternoon. So top tips for live show success. So my first one is, you need to know the exact audience you're trying to target, and have a clear North Star with the show that you have. Not an abstract strategy, but actionable techniques that your audience can actually apply on that day. Second, it should be a deep dive, and it shouldn't be a sales pitch. We try not to sell. This is not a good way to do it, but educate and deep dive on a particular subject to really deliver value to somebody. A quick hack for this, I often say to people, is take your FAQ page or whatever it is that is recurring and just start there. Just start deep diving on FAQs that your customers might have. That's a great way to get a show going with meaningful content. You should be coaching, in public, not pitching. You don't want to be selling. That's another thing, is you want to be coaching, coming from an educational perspective, and also remember that the content lives on. So quite often with these live broadcasts that I do, I refer back to them and send them to people in the future. It's a very good way of keeping a bank of information as well. Break it up into segments. Try to make the show more dynamic, so you're not just relying on a slide fest like I mentioned earlier. Keep it dynamic in transitions, countdowns, sound effects, pre-recorded things, quizzes, Q&As, all sorts of stuff you can do in a live environment when you really think about it as a show. And then sort of like at the end of the show, try to invite people into a private learning zone to continue the conversation. Don't just hit that wall and say, "Oh, look out for our email in the future. We'll let you know when the next webinar comes up." Try to create a location for them to continue their learning experience with you, and a learning community or platform is a really good way to do that. And last of all, as I said earlier, make it repeatable and scalable. That's really important. So I'll let you get on with your Friday afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Let's see what shows we can create. I really look forward to seeing. And if you have any ideas or have your own shows that you've seen success with, please write those in the comments. I'd love to dissect those and have a look and get inspired by your ideas. Also, there's a link in the description below. If you would like to learn a little bit more about live show production, then we have a community being set up, and you're welcome to subscribe to that and learn more about how to go live and create shows that are more engaging than the boring Teams webinars. On that note, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.